I did a film with an absolute idiot of a co-star. And this human being was being so insecure and angry because this person couldn't get the scenes out. And I think I was so vulnerable and comfortable that I got screamed at. And I would cry walking off set. This person would literally look at me in front of the whole crew and say, "You call yourself an actor, this is what I have to work with. But what is this?" And I stood there breaking. This happens. Because this person was number one on a call sheet, there was no safety net for me. So no one had my back. And I remember the next day I walked on and I said, "You get off my set." This is the first time I've ever spoken. I remember being so scared. And I looked at this person and I said, "You can F off. I'm going to work towards a tennis ball. I never want to see you again." And then I remember the producers came up and said, "You can't do this to number one. We have to let this person be on set." And I said, "Well, the person can turn around and I can act to the back head."
The truth is finally coming out about Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, and it's not pretty. Allegations are quickly snowballing, and now a growing number of cast and crew members from the Deadpool and Wolverine franchises are stepping forward, accusing Ryan Reynolds of using his power to dominate sets. Reportedly, Reynolds has been steamrolling projects and taking control of creative decisions with an overbearing, my way or the highway attitude. Fans have been quick to call his behavior shameless, even claiming it betrays the trust Hollywood places in its stars. But it doesn't end there. Blake Lively is also facing scrutiny as more and more receipts from her past are being unearthed. A particular scandal from 2018 has come to light where Blake, who was initially slated to just star in The Husband's Secret, somehow ended up being credited as the executive producer. But the controversy goes deeper. Small creators who worked with her as far back as 2014 are now speaking out, alleging that Blake exploited their designs and then ghosted them once she'd gotten what she wanted. The once beloved power couple image of Blake and Ryan is quickly unraveling, and fans are saying it's only a matter of time before Netflix turns this into a true crime documentary. The story of their messy, never-ending feud with Justin Bieber is just the tip of the iceberg. Behind their public persona of a perfect Hollywood couple, it seems they've been running a series of fake promises, stealing work, and playing mind games. The illusion of their funny husband and classy wife image is falling apart, and now insiders, creatives, and even so-called friends are coming forward, all painting the same picture of a toxic duo. There's a lot to unpack here, so get ready. This story is far from over.
Blake Lively's Instagram followers dropped from 45.2 million to 44.9 million since the 17th of January.
You might be shocked to learn that Blake's track record of questionable decisions goes way back. Let's take a trip down memory lane to 2014, back when some of y'all were still watching Paw Patrol. And that's when Blake decided to launch Preserve, a painfully out-of-touch lifestyle website. The site was full of ridiculously overpriced candles, awkwardly rustic home goods, and random handmade items that, frankly, nobody asked for. It was one of those moves that left people scratching their heads, wondering who her target audience really was.
Believe it or not, the biggest failure of Blake Lively's career is not this moment. It's not even this moment. Not saying something because this movie got a 5 on Rotten Tomatoes out of 100. The biggest stumble in Blake's career was this, and I'm going to need you to watch the first 10 seconds of the intro video. Just tell me, ballpark, what you think it's about, because you're not going to guess. Preserve was Blake Lively's attempt. The goop.
If you've ever tried to figure out what Preserve was all about, you're not alone. After reading some articles, the best we can gather is that it was, quite literally, a brand. The idea was to make money by selling overpriced, hipster-style knickknacks to millennials. From rustic home decor to pricey candles and random handmade items, it seemed more like a trendy attempt than a business with staying power. And as we all know, it didn't last long. When Preserve tanked in 2015, Blake claimed the failure was due to the brand being too ahead of its time and launched prematurely. But the receipts tell a much juicier story. Word around Hollywood is that Blake allegedly ordered samples from small creators under fake names, copying designs to a T and then ghosting the original artists once she had what she wanted. On October 9th, Blake pulled the plug on Preserve, stating that she and her team weren't proud of the site. She explained to Vogue, "We launched the site before it was ready, and it never caught up to its original mission. It's not making a difference in people's lives, whether superficially or in a meaningful way." But just when you thought Blake's sticky fingers were only snatching from Etsy shops, things take an even messier turn. Enter The Husband's Secret, a CBS thriller Blake was set to star in back in 2017. Drama started when an indie screenwriter claimed her script, which had been passed around Hollywood for years, was reworked and turned into the movie Blake was now headlining. Mainstream outlets like Deadline, Variety, and The Hollywood Reporter never touched the story, likely because questioning A-listers was practically taboo at the time. But here's where it gets even more suspect. An old interview resurfaced where Blake casually bragged about hijacking projects from directors and producers like it was no big deal. Just to confirm, not only did Blake star in The Husband's Secret, but she also gave herself the title of executive producer. In Hollywood, executive producer often isn't about doing the work. It's a title that looks good on a resume and boosts your portfolio. So even without solid proof, this just feeds into the long-standing narrative that Blake has been eating off of other people's plates for years. This pattern of behavior is especially evident when looking at her time on Gossip Girl. Behind the scenes, Blake's co-stars bore the brunt of her manipulative tactics and drama. Her first target, Penn Badgley. From the start, Blake reportedly badmouthed Penn behind his back, convincing everyone on set to ice him out. Not because he did anything wrong, but simply because she didn't like him. It took weeks for the cast to realize Penn was actually cool, but by then the damage had been done. And here's the kicker. Blake and Penn ended up dating for 3 years, before she dumped him and swiftly moved on to Ryan Reynolds. Talk about a messy love triangle.
28-year-old actress will take down Preserve on October 9th. Blake launched the site in July 2014, but tells Vogue she doesn't want to continue with something that her and her team are, quote, not proud of. She goes on to explain, quote, we launched the site before it was ready, and it never caught up to its original mission. It's not making a difference in people's lives, whether superficially or in...
Here's where things get even more chaotic. After Blake married Ryan Reynolds and gained even more clout in Hollywood, it seemed like the producers were lining up to worship the ground she walked on. Meanwhile, Penn Badgley's career took a serious nosedive. Word on the street is that a lot of people in the industry quietly blacklisted him, all because Blake wasn't cool with him anymore. Sound familiar? It should, because something eerily similar happened with Justin Baldoni and the It Ends With Us cast. After Justin allegedly received some spicy messages from Blake, rumors started swirling that Blake might have developed feelings for him and started behaving like a bitter, jilted lover when Justin didn't feel the same way. As a result, Blake's behavior had a ripple effect on the It Ends With Us cast. Co-stars like Brandon Sklenar and author Colleen Hoover have reportedly been distancing themselves from Blake lately. The rumor is that they've finally seen the whole picture and realized they were being played by Blake just like everyone else. And if you missed it, I already have a whole video up where Penn Badgley calls out Blake for allegedly ruining his career. Go catch that if you haven't already, because it's a must-watch. Now let's shift focus to another member of the cast. If you think Penn had it tough, wait until you hear how Blake allegedly treated Lane Meyer. While these two were playing best friends on screen, behind the scenes, their relationship was anything but friendly. It was like oil and water, with tension simmering just beneath the surface. The way they interacted behind the scenes was reportedly far from the BFFs they portrayed on camera. The messy dynamics of their off-screen relationship were enough to raise eyebrows, and you can bet it wasn't pretty.
Blake Lively loves to do is tell on herself. So in a newly resurfaced interview from 2009 in Glamour magazine, Blake Lively opened up about how she tried to poison the cast of Gossip Girl against Penn Badgley. So we now know that she had Mr. Armie Hammertime fired from Gossip Girl after just 4 episodes, and now it appears she tried to do the same thing to Penn Badgley. Apparently she wasn't too pleased with Mr. Badgley when he was first cast, and she didn't like the choice, so she tried to taint the rest of the cast against him, but once they realized what a good guy he was, she realized that she lost him.
One thing about Blake is that she definitely knows how to pull the gender card when it suits her. According to Gossip Girl's executive producer, Joshua Safran, Blake and Leighton Meester were technically friends, but not really friendly. Hollywood code for they couldn't stand each other. If you've ever watched their press interviews, the tension was practically palpable. You could feel the awkwardness between them, and it wasn't subtle at all. It's clear that behind the scenes, their relationship was far from the best friends vibe they tried to project on screen.
There's an article recently saying that Leighton and I were frenemies. And it's frenemies. Frenemies? Yeah, we're friends, but we're also enemies. And it's they see our characters on the show, and they want that to be true in a sense. I think they want everybody's characters in real life to emulate that. And it's really strange because they always want to pit women against each other. You don't hear about like Penn and Chase hating each other and being jealous and competitive. So I mean, it's very silly. But you know, we all do get along very well, and
Then there's Armie Hammer, who played Gabriel on Gossip Girl and subtly, but unmistakably, hinted that Blake was the reason he left the show early. Honestly, who's even surprised at this point?
More sense when you're watching a show that there's not an obvious choice between good and evil. So she would seem like the obvious choice, but she's also got, you know, flaws as well. But I think I'm just brunette because of the books.
and everyone knows blondes are nicer anyway.
Over there.
Moment by me.
And speaking of Blake's greatest hits in the diva department, we have to talk about her beef with Anna Kendrick because that was a whole circus. During the press tour for A Simple Favor, the tension between Blake and Anna was so thick you could cut it with a butter knife. One of the producers even said Blake was impossible to work with. Meanwhile, Blake, being Blake, accused Anna of stealing the spotlight during promos, and people were just like, girl, please.
Let me just say, that was a tough show to film, and I didn't end up actually filming all of the episodes I was supposed to because it was such a tough film.
Really? Literally, you said, get me out of this.
It was also like, get him out of here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It just literally was that. Whose love interest were you?
I was Blake Lively.
You were?
Yeah.
Okay, well, sounds like she was the problem. It sure does.
If you want the full scoop on how Anna Kendrick ended Blake, definitely check out my deep dive video. But for now, just know this. These are just a handful of receipts proving that Blake's nasty attitude has been on full display for years. And trust me, this isn't even the part where it gets wild. Blake's skeletons are spilling all over the floor. But y'all, Ryan's closet is just as packed with drama. From sneaky Hollywood moves to shady business deals, the receipts are out. Turns out, some of your faves, who have been dying to talk about it for years, are finally spilling. Heads up, y'all. It is so bad, you'll be absolutely shocked by the time we're done.
Like a few times through Ryan on that film. And, you know, and thought she seems nice and little did I know.
Yeah. Body language experts analyzing this right now.
No. Don't touch me. Don't touch me.
First up, let's talk about Tim Miller, the OG director behind Deadpool, who straight up said he left because of Ryan Reynolds. If you always thought Ryan was just some goofy, lovable guy, yeah, Tim's got a very different story to tell. Apparently, Ryan took over Deadpool and treated it like his personal baby, while Tim was just supposed to sit back and vibe with whatever Ryan wanted. Word on the street is that Ryan wanted complete control over the whole franchise. Scripts, scenes, vibes, everything. And the second Tim started speaking up, Ryan basically hit him with a my way or the highway attitude. Tim eventually packed his bags and told Mental Health magazine point blank, "I don't mind having a debate, but if I can't win, I don't want to play. And I don't think you can negotiate every creative decision. There are so many to make." Ryan's the face of the franchise, and he was by far the most important component of that. So he decides he wants control of it, then he's going to control it. And when you've got a Hollywood heavyweight like Ryan blocking every move, there really wasn't much left for Tim to fight for. But Tim wasn't the only one fed up with Ryan's antics. TJ Miller, who played Weasel in Deadpool, came through with his own experience, and let's just say, it wasn't pretty.
It's really interesting. A lot of them are just not looking at him at all, even though he's standing and praying. That's really interesting. And nobody's amused, it seems.